What is going on, Headliner Nation? Hopefully you're all doing well out there. Today we're talking about our quarterback and tight end rankings here for Week 4 fantasy football. Now this will be our third and final rankings video posted here today, but if you find yourself wanting more, like flex rankings, kicker rankings, defense rankings, we have those as well. They are a member perk, so consider hitting that little blue join button here right under the video, and then you'll get access to those rankings as well as so much more. You'll also get bonus content, members only live streams, access to Discord, all kinds of goodies to take your fantasy game to the next level. But let's go ahead and start off and dive into the quarterback rankings right here. Number 1 this week for me, it's going to be Jalen Hurts. Now don't forget, if you're looking for more detailed information on these guys, head over to the start sit video after this show is over. These are just going to be a quick run through, but like I said, Jalen Hurts at number 1 in a matchup going up against the Washington Commanders. Love to see Jalen Hurts get A.J. Brown going back in week 3, and between that and all the tush pushes, I got Jalen Hurts at number 1. Number 2, this is where I have Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, in that potential shootout going up against the Miami Dolphins. We know that Josh Allen and Bills Mafia would like to come out and make a statement against this Miami Dolphins team that's looked so dominant to start the year. Number 3 then is where I have Patrick Mahomes this week, Sunday Night Football, going up against the New York Jets. Now, despite him having a hodgepodge group of wide receivers, you better believe we're going to see a whole lot of Travis Kelce this week because, once again, Taylor Swift in the house. Number 4, this is where I have Justin Herbert, because you know right now, if you're starting Justin Herbert in fantasy football, you are feeling so damn fancy. And he's got a great matchup this week going up against the Las Vegas Raiders at home. Number 5 is where I have Tua Tagovailoa in that matchup against Josh Allen on the road in Buffalo. Good news out already. Jalen Waddle has cleared concussion protocol and will be on the field. Number 6, this is where I have Kirk Cousins. Not the easiest of matchups for him here this week going up against Carolina, but Kirk Cousins putting up video game style numbers right now because their defense can't stop anyone. It's forcing Kirk to throw for all 4 quarters, and that's really benefiting our fantasy teams. Number 7, this is where I have Lamar Jackson. And honestly, I really wanted to put Lamar Jackson maybe a little bit lower. He's going up against a Cleveland Browns defense that is number 1 in all major categories. But with the rushing upside that we saw just last week in his first 100-yard game of the season, I got Lamar Jackson right here at number 7. But then we move on to number 8, and this is where I have Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. He gets his number 1 wide receiver back. Christian Watson back in the lineup Thursday Night Football against the Detroit Lions. Does that mean that he sees a full set of snaps? No, probably not. But an added weapon to a quarterback that's already been throwing touchdowns left and right? Yes, sir. Got him at number 8. Number 9, this is where I have Anthony Richardson coming out of the concussion protocol, going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams defense been playing pretty freaking good so far to start the season, but it's that rushing upside that we love from Anthony Richardson. Got him at number 9. Number 10, it's Trevor Lawrence going up against the Atlanta Falcons, and yes, they're going to be in London. Do I love London games? No, absolutely not, but this is a great opportunity for this Jags offense to right the ship. I got Trevor Lawrence at number 10. Number 11, Russell Wilson. I know it feels dirty to have him this high, but in a matchup going up against Chicago, who doesn't play much defense, if any, Russell Wilson has an opportunity to put up a big number here for fantasy. Got him at number 11. Number 12 is where I have C.J. Stroud in a matchup going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, a defense that was just kind of picked apart last week by Jimmy G. If Jimmy G can do that, give me C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins to do the same. Got him at number 12. Then at 13 is where I have Justin Fields, and some people want him even lower. Honestly, in a matchup like this, going up against this Denver defense that just gave up 70 points last week, Justin Fields should probably be a top 5 play. The problem is, this offense still looks like it's being run at a 3A high school level. They continue to try to make Justin Fields something he's not, and it is not working in Chicago. For right now, got him at 13. 14 is where I have Brock Purdy, reliable right here. Kind of know what to expect each week from Brock Purdy. Hopefully he has both Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk at his disposal this week in a matchup going up against Arizona. On to 15 is where I have Daniel Jones, and just a great matchup this week going up against Seattle, who allows a butt ton of points to fantasy quarterbacks. The problem, Daniel Jones is either quarterback 1 or quarterback 30 on the year. There's really no in between. It's single digits or 30 plus. Hoping that in a good matchup like this against Seattle, we see one of those bigger games. He's at 15. 16 is where I have Deshaun Watson in a matchup going up against Baltimore. Sure, we're seeing some bonehead plays at times from Deshaun Watson, but he's still continuing to score fantasy points and not a bad QB2 option. Got him at 16. which will then take us down to number 17, and where I have Joe Burrow, maybe the lowest I've probably ever ranked Joe Burrow. And I hate to do it, especially in a great matchup going up against Tennessee, one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. I'm just worried that what we saw last week in week 3 is kind of what we're going to see from the Cincinnati Bengals offense going forward until Joe Burrow is 100% healthy. A lot of running the football, some good defense, and a bunch of short, quick passes to continue moving the chains. Now, from an overall offensive perspective, that may work, and they may win some ball games just like they did last week. But from a fantasy perspective, the touchdowns, they're going to be few and far between, and that's why I have him a little bit lower at 17, but I hope I'm wrong. Number 18, then, is where I have Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks playing on Monday Night Football back in New York against the Giants. Geno Smith going back to New York for the first time as the starter in Seattle. Now, so far through the first 3 games of 2023, Geno hasn't really looked like 2022 Geno, but still solid. Got him at 18. 19 is where I have Jared Goff going on the road to face the Green Bay Packers. Not an easy matchup for Jared Goff. Got him at 19. 20 is where I have Matthew Stafford going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Great matchup for Stafford, but another one of those offenses that we just don't see a whole lot of passing touchdowns, and that's going to limit the ceiling of Matthew Stafford. He's at number 20. 21 is where I have Dak Prescott, going to be at home at least, but a very difficult matchup going up against the New England Patriots. That's why he's at 21. 22 right now is where I have Jimmy G of the Las Vegas Raiders, and a great matchup for him going up against the Chargers, but we're still on concussion watch here for Jimmy G. At the time of this recording, he hasn't cleared concussion protocol. He was added to it after the week 3 game as well. Now, earlier in the week, reports were coming out that they weren't really concerned about him missing this ball game. However, as the week progresses, it's getting more and more iffy if he actually plays. I don't expect a whole lot of people to start Jimmy G, but if he does play, it's a good matchup. Now, 23, this is where it says Andy Dalton, but if it happens to be Bryce Young that starts this game, he's really going to slot into the same spot anyway. It's just a great matchup at home going up against a Minnesota defense that can't stop anyone. Plus, Minnesota is able to score points, which means we're going to have to continue to throw the ball in Carolina. Whether it's Dalton or Young, I got him at 23. 24, so I got the Bake Show, Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road in New Orleans against the Saints. Everybody wants to talk about the Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore matchup in this game. And sure, historically speaking, Marshawn Lattimore gets the better of Mike Evans more times than not. But if we all know that out here in YouTube land, you better believe they know it there in Tampa Bay. Luckily, Mike Evans isn't their only weapon, and maybe we see a little bit more Chris Godwin, maybe we see more dump-offs to Rachaad White, maybe Cade Otton can actually catch a few passes this week. Either way though, Baker Mayfield playing pretty solid football, and I got him at 24. But that'll do it here for the quarterback rankings for week 4, but don't worry, now we're going to talk about tight end rankings and throw it over to Kyle.
Well, I was hoping week 3 of the NFL season would bring some clarity to the tight end position, and it ended up being a few guys that, yep, did absolutely pop off, but a lot of the same old going with it. So what does week 4 look like? I'm going to hop into my top 18 tight ends right now, and then I got a few guys on the outside looking in. And of course, we're going to kick everything off with Travis Kelce, and why wouldn't we? It doesn't matter who he plays. It doesn't matter who he goes against. Travis Kelce, forever number 1 in our hearts and in our lineups. TJ Hawkinson at number 2, probably the safest tight end in football outside of Travis Kelce. His target share right now is absolutely insane, and he is the one guy that we can guarantee is going to get a plethora of targets every single week. Sam Laporta at number 3 going up against Green Bay. Now, Green Bay been pretty decent against tight ends so far this season, but we saw Sam Laporta go off for a huge play last week, and that could absolutely happen again this week at Green Bay, expecting these two teams to put up a few points. Evan Ingram going up against Atlanta. The thing about Evan Ingram right now is that he's getting targets. He's staying on the field, and we haven't seen a ton of upside from him so far, but he's been a top 12 tight end each of the first 3 weeks. That's a lot more than you can say about almost everybody else. Now we're going to get to some guys who've got some risk. Darren Waller going up against Seattle. He's getting all of the targets right now that a lot of these other tight ends are getting. They just aren't being turned into fantasy points. Whether it's a drop, whether it's uncatchable, it doesn't matter. Darren Waller's getting targets right now. He's running a ton of routes. He's just not turning any of that into fantasy points. Hopefully we can get that turned around sooner rather than later. Mark Andrews at number 6. We know the Cleveland defense is going to bring it this week against Baltimore. My hope for Mark Andrews is that he gets anywhere from like 5 to 6 targets and catches 4 to 5 of those. The problem with those targets is that they're probably not going to be much more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, and he'll probably be taken down pretty quick. Obviously, that doesn't give him a whole lot of ceiling, but his floor is a lot better than other people at the position. George Kittle going up against Arizona had a great bounce back performance last week, but with Brandon Ayuk on track to play this week against Arizona, what does that look like in terms of his targets? Because do the targets that he got last week go back to Brandon Ayuk? Deebo Samuel with good back-to-back weeks. Do those targets go back to Brandon Ayuk? We're lacking some upside that I would need from George Kittle this week, and because we also are worried about the targets, I've got to drop him lower than some of these other guys. Pat Freiermuth at number 8. This is a guy that's not getting a ton of targets or getting a ton of yards right now, but he's getting looked at in the red zone, and he's getting looked at in the red zone consistently. Pat Freiermuth is as good a bet as ever of anybody at the tight end position to score a touchdown each week. Hunter Henry at number 9. A little bit of a down week last week after being 1 and 2 the first 2 weeks in terms of the tight end position. Going up against a tough Dallas defense, they're going to blitz and they're going to blitz hard. They're going to be all over Mac Jones. Mac Jones is going to be looking to a safety blanket to get the ball out and get the ball out quickly. Dallas Goedert at number 10 going up against Washington. Just not seeing a ton of looks to begin the season, but going up against Washington this week definitely could be a week that we see him start to get back on track. And if he doesn't, this will probably be the final week that we do give him that benefit of the doubt. And we'll see what happens moving forward. Luke Musgrave, number 11. I could see him going as high as tight end 7 or maybe even tight end 6. But with Christian Watson being back, how many targets does that potentially take away from Luke Musgrave on Thursday Night Football? Yes, it opens up the opportunity for maybe a little bit more efficiency while people are paying attention to Christian Watson and the wide receivers, but Luke Musgrave going up against the Lions, we'll have to see maybe if they put Brian Branch on him, who has been really, really good to start the year. Tyler Higbee at number 12, kind of the same thing I mentioned with Hunter Henry. Indianapolis's defensive line is one of the best in the league at bringing pressure. Stafford is going to have to get the ball out. He's going to have to get the ball out quick. And Tyler Higbee could be one of those guys that, even though his ceiling isn't high, benefits from the amount of targets he sees this week. Kyle Pitts at number 13. We've slowly continued to drop him down in the rankings. Yeah, he had a better performance last week than he's had basically all season, but it doesn't matter. He's still not getting the looks that he probably deserves. At number 14, Jake Ferguson, a touchdown threat. Didn't see the type of performance that I would have liked to see last week. Gerald Everett is all the way up to number 15 for me. I talked about it in the start and sit video. I am curious to see if Gerald Everett moves out to the slot with Josh Palmer on the outside a little bit more this week, and if he builds on his performance from last week now that Mike Williams is being out. Gerald Everett is an extremely risky play, but if he does get that volume, he can end up being a very safe play by the end of the week. Dalton Kincaid at number 16. We're going to have to throw the ball against Miami. Dalton Kincaid at tight end is the benefactor in terms of volume, even though Dawson Knox is getting the looks in the red zone. At number 17, David Njoku going up against Baltimore. David Njoku hasn't really done anything yet to begin this season. Is going to get a little bit of a tougher defense, and hopefully at some point he turns it around. But if not, David Njoku is really close to busting right now. Zach Ertz at number 18, 19 targets each of the first 2 weeks, and now we head into a matchup with San Francisco after a poor performance last week. Hopefully we get back to throwing the ball to Zach Ertz. Now we got a few guys on the outside looking in. Donald Parham at number 19. As I mentioned in the start and sit video, we're banking on touchdowns with Donald Parham, but that's all that he offers. Cole Kmet at number 20. I would love to run him higher right now, but I can't. And why is that? This offense is just inconsistent and unfortunately extremely bland. At number 21, Kylen Granson. It does look like Anthony Richardson is on track to play this Sunday. No guarantees as of yet. He hasn't officially cleared the protocol, but it could end up happening soon. Hayden Hurst at number 22 going up against Minnesota. Even with Andy Dalton slinging the ball all over the place last week, Hayden Hurst didn't do anything to help the cause. At number 23, Dawson Knox. If you're looking for a touchdown, then he's your man, similar to Donald Parham. Not going to get a ton of volume, but he is going to get the looks in the red zone from Josh Allen. And then at number 24, I always throw him down here, Taysom Hill. If you really want to risk it and try and play him at the tight end position, go ahead. But guess what? If you took that risk each of the first 3 weeks, it didn't work out for you at all. Yo, Headliner Nation, there you have it, my top 18 tight ends and a few guys on the outside looking in. And quite honestly, if you don't have one of the top guys in the rankings, life has been pretty hard so far this season. Let's keep our fingers crossed that these guys can get back on track and start helping to establish the position a little bit more often. I'm going to get out of here though. Thanks to Jank for his rankings as well. Peace out, Headliner Nation. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.